Alright guys, so it's been a hot minute since the last one of my tier list videos, right? In fact, I think it was last year. Whoa, yearly tier lists? No way. So yeah, I like doing this. I like discussing what has changed in the Ultimate meta since the previous list, you know. Even though Ultimate has not been patched for how many years, people are still figuring new things out, just getting better at the game. And it's cool because we get to see just how exactly our perception of some characters changes, or doesn't change. So you guys know the drill at this point. We can go through all the tiers. I'm going to explain why characters are there. I'm not going to really talk about characters if there's not much new to talk about. Like, for example, let's start off with Ganondorf, right? It's Ganondorf. He's the worst character in the game. He's slow, easy edgeguard. Nothing's really changed with that in the past, like, 7 years. So we can gloss over that, right? Also, you know, each tier is ordered, and the ordering does matter, but, like, if a character's, like, 1 or 2 spots next to each other, like, the difference, in my opinion, which is fact, but anyway, the difference, in my opinion, of their strengths is not that significant. But if a character is at, like, the bottom of a tier, or the right side of a tier, you know, I think they're significantly weaker than the one on the way left side of the tier, even if it's the same general power level. So those things out of the way, let's get right to it. So, starting off, got the bottom tier characters, of course, Ganon, whatever. Little Mac shouldn't be a surprise, and you know, all these characters, I should say, are able to get results with the right brackets and right players. Little Mac actually has some decent Japanese results, but you know, there's a lot of matchups where just you can't win with Little Mac. Villager is, people are gonna look at this and go, huh, why is Villager here? And he doesn't really do anything in this game. He's a character that's like theoretically a solid, well-rounded kit, but in practice, I don't think Villager has like done anything relevant for the entirety of Ultimate. It makes sense. His buttons are low range, his combos aren't that great, damage output's not great. Like, he's like what people imagine zoners are supposed to be like, where a lot of his strengths are in the zoning and not much else. So that's one of the main reasons he's not that good. And then Marth this year, and Marth is really low, probably like, nah, I can't speak. People are gonna look at this and go, why is Marth bottom 5? What? Lucina's not even that close to as bad. And that's true. It all just comes down to the fact that not only a tipper is hard to hit in Ultimate and consistent, but like sour spots are so bad in this game. Like, getting hit by a Marth sour spot does nothing. And that is such a huge issue, because as long as you're not getting tippered, you don't really care what Marth is doing to you. I know a lot of people can look at Mewtwo and go, why is Mewtwo here? And he's the type of character that feels really good when you're beating someone with him, because he has a lot of good tools, but big, light, tail, like once you lose with him, you lose hard for everything. So that rounds out our bottom tier characters. Just, you know, characters that really, I don't think it should be too much debate as to them. Speaking of not much debate, I feel like the low tier section is also one that, you know, most people can probably agree with. I think people are gonna look at Dedede and be like, Dedede down here. But I couldn't find a character that's worse than him, really. Like, yeah, his ledge trapping's stupid, and he's a big body with big buttons. But, you know, as his game has advanced, it's become increasingly harder for big body characters to perform well. They're really easy to pressure, combo, especially if they're slow, and especially if they're slow and require like setup. Like, anyone can see Dedede Gordo coming and play around that, right? And you can see his massive buttons that take forever to start up. And so it's just not really a character that like should hit you much, as long as you're aware of what's going on. Ike's kind of in a similar spot. His sword is pretty big, which is nice, but he doesn't really offer you much. He just has big sword with like okay buttons, which in most Smash games, okay buttons means the character's probably decent. But in Ultimate, that just doesn't really do anything, I think, when every character has like, or every decent character has like crazy mechanics, projectiles, combos, whatever. And Ike's just, in there. Belmonts. This character is some really good matchups. Definitely a polarizing character. But I think over time, even like their good matchups have gotten less good. As the character's meta, I feel like the character's meta is really stagnated. Like, I haven't seen with pushing this character. I feel like the character has a lot of tricks that the player base has kind of figured out. And just feels like he's been slowly falling behind. Lucario's in a similar boat, where it's like, I haven't really seen anyone push this character. He's not very good. His buttons are kind of bad until his aura, of course. But in a game where people are dying increasingly earlier, aura isn't a good mechanic, at least without like enough stuff as well. Like big shadow, big aura sphere, cool. Big side B, cool. Back here with Cozy absurd percent's cool. He's a scary character, but like he's not a good character. He's just really scary. Zelda, she's just been here the entire game. Like Knight's cool. Lightning kick out, shield's cool, whatever. Same with Link, right? Like just like characters like, oh, he's been here the entire game. Slow, decent buttons. Like he has some good stats, but it's kind of the DDD issue where it's like you can see everything coming a mile away with this character. Ridley, no, like these characters like should all be no surprises, right? Big body. If he hits you, you can die. If he gets hit, he's gonna die. He's a big body with iffy frame data, so he's gonna get hit more than he hits people. I think people could be surprised at Puff, because for a while we were looking at Puff thinking maybe this character's good. Like basically just kind of farming people. The Puff edge guards are crazy. And like for a while it was looking like this character's edge guarding game and combo game was really strong. But between people getting better SDIing things so she can't land rest stuff as easily, recognizing how strong her forward throw is if she gets into some characters, but also like how much she just can't get past decently spaced attacks and projectiles, people have stopped getting like forward thrown. They've stopped just getting hit by these random like puff openers she shouldn't get because her range is so bad. Even though her airspeed's crazy good, it's like not the hardest thing in the world to play around crazy airspeed unless the character has crazy buttons to go with that. And yeah, just being a lightweight character that really relies on hitting like big combos and kill confirms has made her life really difficult as people learn the matchup more and learn how to play around that stuff. Now, Doc is probably higher than most people expected. I almost put Doc in lower mid tier, I'm not gonna lie. This character's combo game's insane. His buttons are actually quite good. Like they're good frame data, decent range. Pale is actually an amazing projectile. Up air show's pretty good. He is like really strong kill confirms with like down throw down B in the corner. But despite all that, this all requires you to get in range to actually hit people. And just being a slow character with low range, even though the buttons are good, means like he is always working uphill battles versus most characters, but he's exceptionally strong into other like brawler type characters, and that's his one really nice niche. That, and I think big bodies just get absolutely murdered by him. And then rounding out low tier, we got Kirby. This character, you know, great into those brawler type characters, great into big bodies, bad into everything else, especially if you're willing to play really lame and run away left from Kirby and just not interact with this character crouching, which for some characters is very annoying. Like yeah, Kirby does surprisingly decent to random stuff like Palutena, but you put a Kirby versus a Game & Watch, and anyway, we don't gotta see that match. Now, lower mid tier, this is where you get a lot of characters that have actually gotten some decent results in the past few years. Nothing too crazy generally, or nothing consistent, but like you see like little inklings of like maybe this character is very good, and then I feel like the character gets shut down for the next half a year until like another good run happens. So yeah, starting this off, we got me, Sorty. This character is just on paper good, some decent buttons. There's like the me Sorty like zero death tech that was figured out like a few months ago that hasn't really turned into anything as far as I can tell in bracket, but it's cool to think about. Wii Fit just eternally like, oh yeah, she has deep breathing, and that's about it. Meta Knight, you know, always been, if he can hit his combos on you, like his zero deaths or whatever, you go crazy. If you can play around the right percents and right openers, though, rough for him. K. Rool, you know, the scrub stomper. This character was initially a lot higher in my first draft of this list, like around top of mid tier. And then I thought about more, and it's like, he's really, really, really good at scrub killing. Like, really good at that. But as people have gotten better and better, you know, he's just such a linear character with so many weaknesses due to being a big body with a bad recovery that, like, I think especially the fact that he dies very easily despite being heavy is such a huge problem. But Crown is really good. His buttons are really scary. He is very heavy. He has armor. Like, he has some really obnoxious traits. Now, we have like 6 characters that are kind of like these like weird zoner characters, and the way I describe all these characters is they're all zoners that do what you think your zoners are supposed to do. They're supposed to zone, and like, you know, there's nuances. Like Lucas has a pretty good combo up close pressure game with like some stuff, especially his tether cancels. You know, Robin has good sword buttons and some crazy stuff. Isabel actually has ridiculous frame data that lets her get some combos going. And I think the Lloyd Rocket mine thing is good. Even Fishing Rod's pretty good. You know, Banjo is pretty heavy and hits pretty hard and has the side B. And then Piranha Plant, you know, Spargo got some good results with the character this year. Character's heavy, hits really hard, is really small relative to his weight. Up smash especially is a super strong kill move. And like dash attack is a good button. But despite having some really cracked out moves, has some really bad moves, like the Nair, Fair, and Bear all being, in my opinion, pretty subpar. And then Bowser Jr. rounds this area out. He's actually a character that I think I might still be sleeping on. I think I pushed him up since my last year's tier list. And he's like... he can be really lame, and that's really good in Ultimate. Like, just not interacting, but also choosing when you want to interact is always an extremely good thing in Ultimate. So, just doing that with his Koopa Cart is really good. His projectiles can be good for setting up, especially if you can like set it up, then Koopa Cart into you, abuses big buttons. And like a lot of these characters, he's a heavyweight character that's kind of small. That also just hits very hard. So it's really scary getting hit by him. He also has good combos. He to me is clearly the best of like this chunk of like these like low tier, or I guess lower mid tier zoners. And yeah, he might go up. And then Chrom. I know people could look at this and go, how is Chrom so low compared to Roy? What? No way. Just recovery. As Ultimate has increasingly gotten more deadly, a character that always risks dying after getting hit once is just not, it's not cutting the bread. Especially in a game where, you know, he doesn't have projectiles or anything. He's just fast with a good sword, which is really nice. But it means you have to interact with people into what they want you to interact with, because most characters have projectiles and stuff. And a lot of characters that don't are like things like Incineroar or Bowser that are so good up close that even there, Chrom is, he's struggling. A good Chrom could beat any player because his neutral is so strong, but you just have to be that much better than your opponent neutral consistently. Yeah, I could see him in upper mid tier, but the extreme lack of consistency makes me put him here. All right, next up we got the upper mid tier section. This is like where you start getting characters, in my opinion, that are like pretty good. They're almost really good characters, but a lot of them are like just slightly lacking enough that I wouldn't tell someone not to play them competitively if they want to, but I would never encourage anyone to play any of these characters competitively. Like, there's just better options that fulfill similar niches for all these characters, but they do have pretty solid kits. Inkling, I know this character people thought was broken when Ultimate came out, yada yada, and then she's gotten worse and worse, and turns out being a character with okay range and decent mobility and like no damage output and kill power is really rough. Like, maybe not no damage output, but not enough. Especially when her ink mechanic just loses to you running away. And I think as Ultimate's gotten older, we found that fast characters, well, being fast is always a good thing. Being fast isn't enough to navigate through all the big hitboxes with no lag and all the projectiles, stage traps, whatever, that Ultimate's full of. He's not that great, but he's not awful. And then Incineroar, big body, you know, big body's getting zoned in Ultimate. What a surprise here. Ices is basically just an Incineroar character, hits super hard, gets zoned out. Nothing really has happened with this character except the zoning's gone better. You know, Bowser, granted, Bowser is really fast. And Bowser being fast lets him get past zoning and obnoxious things better. But in exchange, he just gets comboed so hard. And his disadvantage state's like particularly bad, even among heavyweight characters. But he has a command grab and flame breath, so that's good. Now, Pichu. This character is interesting, because I kind of want to put this character higher. I feel like this character has actually been doing pretty well on like the low this year, as Pichu players have gone a lot better, like really hitting his confirms, like his up air thunder confirms, his back air stuff, just abusing his crazy mobility and how strong T-Jolt is. And there's a universe where honestly, he could be quite a bit higher, but at the end of the day, having to interact in Ultimate is always such an issue, especially if like you're forced to interact by the nature of your kit. That's so bad in a game where a lot of the best characters are really good because they force you to interact in unfavorable ways. But hey, this character can just absolutely murder you and he's really fast, so that does mean something. And then we got the pits, the kind of standard of like, yeah, they're okay. You know, decent buttons, kill power, damage output, frame data. Actually, frame data is insane for them. Multi-jumps is good. Like, No, they're fine, but you're never really gonna pick Pit for any particular reason besides you want to play them. They don't really have any niche. They're just well-rounded characters that tend to like lose to other characters that do their thing better depending on the matchup. Also, I put Pit up front of Dark Pit because I think regular Pit is slightly better than Dark Pit. I think Angled Arrows is better than that side B with a better knockback angle. Falcon. This character's actually had some decent results in Japan, I think. He's just such a feast or famine character, and that's like by design, and that makes him a character that can win, but not win consistently. But I also don't think there's many matchups he can't win until you get to like the god tier characters like Steve or Game & Watch. So like he has that niche of like he's fine until you hit that really cracked tier. So decent character, you know, does what he wants to do, which is burst you down, kill you. And then poor baby girl Rosa. Yeah, she can't really hang in this game when characters hit so hard. Luma dies so easily. She's tall and light, and like she has some good buttons, but her damage output is a little bit subpar. She has trouble killing. She relies a lot on edge guarding, which in other Smash games I don't think that'd be too bad. But since recoveries and ultimate are generally really overtuned, the fact that like her best way to kill people tends to be edge guarding in a game where recoveries tend to just be so strong means I feel like she is a potentially really strong kit in the wrong game. Like if you put this version of Rosa in Smash 4, I think she'd still stay a top tier despite being completely different than her Smash 4 version. Alright, Ken. He's just a character that he's good at one thing. When he's up close, he kills you. He's very good at that. His combo game, pressure, all this stuff is crazy. But the fact that he only wins on one axis, whatever, is the fact that he has like one win condition, which is just get up close and pray he kills you, has led to him, in my opinion, just seeming worse and worse over time. Granted, I think I should be putting him around here. I don't know. I think I forgot to order him, to be honest. But yeah, he's not but alas. Alright, DK. Remember what I said about Falcon being this like character that can inconsistently just win? DK is like that, but on steroids. Like just bursting out dash attack, really good airspeed, back air is insane, great grab game of course, armored moves, especially up B is really like funny as a catch me off guard move, charge punch. Like he has some awful matchups. This is probably the most polarizing character in this entire tier. But despite that, I feel like when you don't run into those like polarizing matchups, he's good. And even then, I've seen a good DK beat Steve players before because his character's on hit state is just so insane, and some of his like setups, combos, you name it, just So this character might be underrated, to be honest. He honestly might be lower high tier because he's so scary and he's fast as buttons are so big, but he is a big body in Ultimate. So moving on, Young Link, nothing's really changed here. He's kind of just poster child for like overrated character that seems good because potential combos, yada yada, but yeah. Byleth, kind of the same, not really overrated, but just like, you know, this character's kind of solidly cemented themselves as upper mid tier, I think. Like the character is clearly good at what they do, which is walling people out, has some decent buttons, but there's not much like nuance to the character. Like you get what you see, which is good buttons, good damage output, and I don't think Leo's really using the character much anymore because the character doesn't really keep up nowadays with all those zoners, fast characters, whatever. And now people are gonna look at this and go, me gunner? Dabuz, what are you doing throwing me gunner here? The thing about me gunners, I actually think this character is really underrated, and it's kind of like DK where I can definitely see like this character doing really well next year and people's opinion of the character changing, because this character has obnoxious levels of zoning. Like this character creates these really strong projectile walls that a lot of the roster can't really get around. And then even if the character doesn't have the best kill power or damage output, just the consistency of like setting up grenades, firing charge shots, controlling space with forward air, the missiles, whatever, and the fact you can adjust the moveset, of course, helps this character a lot. And yeah, I think this character actually has a lot of room to grow due to just the expansive nature of this zoning kit.